All right. We are in Parshat Lech Lecha.
Yes.
So
Wow. Mhm.
yeah, it moves fast, right? And
Mhm.
so we're making our way
Oops.
through
No.
Sefer Breshit, and Lech Lecha really was the very end of Parshat Noach, but Lech Lecha is the the emergence of Avraham onto the scene, and really um, from now till the end of the Tanakh is about the Jewish people, whereas the first two parshiot were much more focused on the broader world, on um, all of humanity. We're now narrowing in on our unique story, and so there's so many great episodes, great features of Parshat Lech Lecha. I wanted to focus tonight on what all the all the contemporary Divrei Torah, or whatever, refer to as the First World War. Whether there's any historical truth to that, I'm not sure, but we have the story of the war, right? When I was in yeshiva, one of my teachers used to call it the War of the Five Towns because it's the five kings
Mm.
versus the four kings,
Nice.
and that's when I was dating and first married to Toby, and her parents live in the five towns, so I thought that was even funnier than it might be. But anyway, we have this war of four kings versus five kings. Really, the first half. I brought the entirety of the chapter 14 in the source sheet, um, but we're going to pick up in verse 12. And when it's time to scroll down in the English, someone please tell me. So we're in verse 12. So we have this war, and
Rabbi, do you want to just increase it one more time?
yes.
Was that
Um,
too much?
that might be, can you see the whole thing?
Yeah, it's great. It's very
Okay,
zoomed.
great. All right. So, so in verse 12, we're told that as part of this war, Vaikhu et Lot ve'et rechusho ben achi Avram vayelechu v'hu bistom. They took Lot, who's Avram's nephew, as a captive. Vaikhu et kol rechush Stom v'Amorah ve'kol achlam vayelechu. They took all the property of Stom and Amorah, and they took their food, and they went. Vaikhu et Lot ve'et rechusho. Sorry.
They have a police.
My sheet's not zoomed in. ויבוא הפליט ויגיד לאברהם העברי והוא שוכן באלוני ממרא המורי את אחי אשכול ואחי ענר והם בעלי ברית אברהם. So the palit, right, Rashi tells us that this might refer to Og, who becomes later the king of Bashan. That this messenger comes and tells Avram that Lot has been taken captive, and Avram was living among Eshkol and Aner. וישמע אברהם כי נשבע אחיו, וירק את חניכיו ילידי ביתו, 18,300, וירדוף עד דן. So Avram hears that Lot has been taken, and he takes whoever's able to join him in battle, um, 318 men, and they go and pursue until Dan. ויחלק עליהם לילה. Yep. Hu v'avadav v'yakim v'yardifim ad chova asher mismol Damascus, and so he finally catches up to them at nighttime somewhere near Damascus. Um, Vayashev et kol rechush v'gam et lot achiv v'rechusho heshiv v'gam et hanashim v'ta'am. So he succeeds in um, restoring or recapturing the property and Lot's property and the women and everyone else who had been taken captive. Vayetze melech Stom likrato acharei shuvo hu kohen le'eloyon. The king of Stom comes after him. Um,
Let's see.
sorry,
I think you
I'm
skipped a line.
skipping a
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
I think you
Vayetze
wanted.
melech Stom likrato acharei shuvo mehakot et ktar laomer v'et hamalachim asher ito el emek shaveh v'hu emek hamelech. So the king of Stom comes after Avram brings all this stuff back, and he encounters him in the Valley of the Kings. Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem Hotzi Lechem V'Yayin V'Hu Kohen LeEloyon. Malki Tzedek, the king of Shalem, brings out wine and bread, and he was a priest to El Elyon, to the supreme God. Right? He's generally read by our commentators, by our tradition, in a very positive light. Vayvarcheyu vayomar baruch Avram leEloyon kanei shemayim va'aretz. He blesses Avraham, and he says, "Blessed is Avraham to God." Ubaruch Elyon asher migain sarecha biyadecha. Vayitin lo ma'aser mikol. And blessed is God who protected you, and he gave him a tenth. It's unclear whether Malki Tzedek gives Avram a tithe or Avram gives Malki Tzedek a tithe. Interesting debate among the commentators on that. And this is what we're really focused on for tonight. Vayomer Melech Stom El Avram. Tainli hanefesh v'arachush kachlach. Melech Stom, right? Remember, it was Stom that was pillared during the battle, right? It was residents of Stom were taken captive. It was the property of Stom that was taken as booty. Vayomer Avram El Melech Stom Harimoti Adi El Hashem El Yon Konei Shamayim Va'aretz. So the king of Stom says, Avram, you keep all of the wealth, all the possessions, just give me back the people. And Avram raises his hand and he says, in the name of God, Imichut vi'ad sroch na'al v'imekach mikol asher lach v'lo tomar ani ha'esharti et Avram. So the translation gets a little bit dicey. Right? It's generally read as, I will not take even a chut, a thread, or a shoelace, or from anything else which is yours, so that you may not say, I made Avram rich. Biladai rak asher achlu hane'arim v'chelak ha'anashim asher halchu iti aner eshkol u'mamrei hem yikchu chelkam. So I don't want anything except for whatever the soldiers ate in the course of the battle, as well as my friends or my colleagues or my mercenaries, my allies. That's a good one. Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre, they're going to take their part, right? They did me a favor by coming into battle, so they're entitled to keep whatever spoils of war they want to keep. Okay, so we have just one interesting thing to point out. Right? I always read this and was taught this story that Avram, prevails over all these kings and he's victorious. That's probably not what really is being even described here. What's really being described is that there's this massive army marching back to wherever they came from. And Avram does a raid, right? He does a small little raid to capture and to rescue Lot and all the stuff that was around where Lot was being held, right? It wasn't that Avram went to battle against this mighty army and proved himself to be the best fighter among everything else that he's proving himself to be, but that he conducts a small raid in order to save Lot, and that it really wasn't that significant in the course of, if we're going to call it World War I or whatever it is, but that he has this success. He has this little success. And the question I want to focus on is this oath that Avram takes at the very end, where he's told, you keep all the wealth, you keep all the possessions, just give me back the people. And Avram says, no, I don't want to take anything from you. So first of all, why does Avram say this? Why does Avram refuse to take any wealth from Melech Stom?
Doesn't want anyone to say that the king of Sodom made him rich.
Okay, so right, that's what the pasuk says, right? Lo tomar ani hasharti et Avram, right? So you can't say that I made Avram rich. Right, so Rashi says that, right, this is because Hashem promised Avram, I'm going to make you rich. So Avram doesn't want the source of his wealth to come from anyone or anything other than Hashem. There's a big
Isn't he
problem.
already rich?
Yeah, he's already accepted riches from Paro when he went down to Egypt, right?
Right.
He doesn't seem to have an issue with taking money from others. So it's a big question, and we're gonna
By the
come
way,
back.
Rabbi, you have to scroll down because it's the Rashi.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. We saw the Rashi. So, okay. So that's one big question. Is he says he doesn't want the king of Stone to be able to say that he's the one that made Avram rich, but Avram's already been made rich by others. So it's that's one question. The second question is this phrase that Avram uses, im. What's the Hebrew? The Hebrew is
Imichut.
michut vi'ad sroch na'al, from a thread to a shoelace. What does that mean? Those are our two big questions for tonight. Number one, why does Avram refuse to take the wealth, the property from the king of Stone? He's already done such in the past. And number two, what's the significance of this phrase? So as the first step, we'll look at what Chazal have to say about it. And Chazal, maybe you've heard some of these interpretations. Probably the Gemara is the best, the most well-known, or the most familiar. The Gemara tells us in Sota, and again, someone tell me when it's time to scroll down in the English. Darash Rava, Bischar Amar Avraham Avinu imichut ve'ad sroch na'al, zachu banav lishtei mitzvot. Because Avram made this oath about a thread and a shoe strap, his ancestors merit two mitzvot. The two mitzvot that they merit are number one, chut shel techelet, the string of techelet. What's the string of techelet? What's that referring to?
The blue string on tzitzit.
Most likely, right? There are other techelet strings. That's actually a very cool little side note, is that the Kohen would tie his tzitz with a techelet string, and the promise that Hashem makes the Jewish people is atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim. You'll become a kingdom of priests. So perhaps the mitzvah to wear techelet for every Jewish male is an embodiment of that becoming kingly. But that's an aside, right? And for our purposes, the chut shel techelet presumably is tzitzit. Uritzua shel tefillin. And what's the shoe strap refer to? A little bit more of a stretch, but it refers to the leather strap of the tefillin. Shoe strap is leather, the tefillin strap is leather. The Gemara says, Bishlam aritzua shel tefillin dichti baruch olamei aretz ki shem Hashem nikra alecha. Okay, so I understand that the tefillin strap is a merit to the Jewish people, to Avram's descendants, because it says concerning tefillin that all the nations of the world will see that the name of God is declared upon you. That's what the tefillin is a sign of. Vitanya Rabbi Elazar Gadol Omer Elu Tefillin Shebarosh. Elachut shel tchelet maihi, but how is the tchelet of tzitzit a merit? Okay, it's a mitzvah that we have, but how's that? What's the benefit? What's the added merit of that mitzvah? Ditanya Haya Rabbi Meir Omer Manish Tana tchelet mikol minei tivonin. Rabbi Meir says, how is tchelet different than all other colors? Yipnei shatchelet domeh layam, v'yam domeh
Love
lerakia.
this one.
Oh no, so still here. V'rakia domeh lekisei hakavod, right? Because it says, why is tchelet so special? Because tchelet is similar to the sea, and the sea is similar to the sky, and the sky is similar to the to God's throne, to the divine throne. Right? The heavenly throne is described as this stone that looks like in the same shade of blue or green or whatever the techelet is. So because it's associated with God's throne, it has an added benefit, and right, that might also tie into the Mamlechet Kohanim. So we have these two special mitzvot.
Wait, what? What's the second mitzvah?
Tzitzis and tefillin.
So the drush of Rabbi Eliezer Gadol. Sorry, the Tanya Haya Rabbi Meir Omer. There's something special about tchelet.
Right, and so presumably it's because the tchelet is symbolic of Kisei HaKavod, of God's throne, so therefore it has this added benefit.
So so that first pasuk, Baruch Olamei Haaretz Kishem Hashem
That's
Nikra
that's
Lecha
tefillin.
is what happens when you wear tefillin, and when you're wearing tchelet, you are okay. So they're
Yes.
also going to see the kisei kavod essentially.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Okay. If we continue in the other midrashim that I have here, so in the Breshit Rabbah, it says the chutz again refers to tzitzit, and here it says that the sroch na'al, the shoe strap, chayecha sha'ani notein levanecha mitzvat yevama, refers to the mitzvah of yibum. And what's the mitzvah of yibum? So really, it's the mitzvah of chalitza, not the mitzvah of yibum. But
Yeah,
what's the
right.
reference here?
Like they're
Going to
removing the
take that
shoe.
shoe off.
Right. So we have a situation where a man dies childless, a married man dies childless. So then it's a mitzvah for his closest brother to marry the wife and have children with her, and the children will be named after the deceased husband. If the brother doesn't want to do this, or nowadays no one really does this, maybe a few isolated communities, but no one really does it. So we have a alternative of chalitza, which is that there's this whole ceremony, this whole ritual where the brother comes before the beis din and the wife is there, and the brother basically says, I don't want to marry her, and she has to take the shoe off of his foot, and she has to spit at his feet. It's a very strange, interesting ritual. So anyway, but that's a shoe associated mitzvah. So the Medrash here says that that's the mitzvah that the descendants of Avram merited in his mentioning the sroch na'al, the shoe strap in to the King of Stone. And then this Medrash continues. Davar acher imichut zeh hamishkan shu mitzuyar betchelet v'argaman. The chut, according to another opinion, refers to the Mishkan because one of the dominant colors of the Mishkan is techelet, and we're already automatically associating the chut with the color of techelet. The atzroch na'al, and the shoe strap refers to the orot techashim, the seal skins or whatever skins the tachash represents. Again, because it's leather, not a direct connection. And then a final opinion, sroch na'al, the shoe strap refers to the pa'amei regalim, the bells that were sewn into the bottom of the Kohen's me'il. So again, just anything associated with general shoes or bottom parts of the bodily clothing, I guess. The Medrash Tanchuma. Okay, so it begins by also saying the chut is tzitzit, and then it tells us about chalitza. Then a third opinion where it says Zion, 7, Sruch Na'al, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu b'zchut kach ani noten levanecha mitzvat Pesach. The shoe strap refers to Pesach. Why? Shene'emar, it says regarding how we were supposed to eat the Korban Pesach when we first left Egypt, right, that you will eat it with already, you're on your way ready to leave, right? Your belts are all secured, your shoes are on, and you're ready to run away. You have to eat it quickly and hastily. Davar acher, and then finally, Mishabeach ani levanecha b'chutz. God says, "I'm going to praise your children with chut." Not that there's a specific mitzvah, but in Shir Hashirim, the lover, who allegorically is understood to be Bnei Israel, is described kechut hashani, like the chut, the how's it translated here? Are your feet in sandals, whatever. So the Medrash just brings all sorts of interesting associations with these two things that we find elsewhere in the tradition. Whether there's a fundamental or a pshat level connection between Abraham saying this seems to be a bit of a stretch, right? That there's clearly this detail that doesn't make much sense, and so the rabbis are trying to find a way to somehow connect it and make it more plausible. Any questions on what we've seen up to this point? Bobby's looking very confused.
Yeah, I think I'm just confused at like this jump towards because Avraham says this, we get mitzvot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just my attitude towards mitzvot, but like I guess how are we understanding that? Like really, like how are we understanding that this is a good thing?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, it's
Okay.
a very strange thing to say, right? That's I think we all can agree on that. It's a strange thing to say. Michut v'atzroch na'al. And so the rabbis are trying to make sense of it, and this is how rabbis make sense of things: is that they connect it to mitzvot and halacha. So
Hmm.
that's the best explanation I have.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No,
Well,
okay, good.
let me ask the question. Why is it such a strange thing to say? I don't want anything from you. I don't want to,
right.
I
So
don't
you
want
could
as
say,
much
I
as a
don't want
I
anything
don't want
from
as
you,
much
but
as I don't want as much as a penny. So
right.
here they
So
say a shoestring. I mean, they go through such contortions to try to find some
right. So,
connection of
you
what
know, I think
and
part of the difficulty is when we read it, right? Michutz ve'atzroch na'al. It seemed right. A thread and a shoe strap both seem to be insignificant things, right?
right,
So generally, if you're going to say, I don't want anything, you'd say, I don't want something big. I don't want $1,000, and I don't want a penny. You wouldn't say, I don't want a penny, and I don't want another penny, right? That the fact that it's two seemingly insignificant things, I think, um, highlights it even more.
hmm
That's the best explanation I have
So can
for
I?
now. Well, we'll hopefully get
Yeah.
to different understanding in a little bit, but at this point, that's I think where we're at. And just to show you, if we skip ahead, there's beautiful applications and interpretations based on this way of thinking, right? So the Mahavir Diskin, we don't need to see the whole. I gave you the whole source here, but we'll just read the English summary of it. Um, right, the Gemara says that because Abraham said "Michut ve'atzroch na'al," his children merited to receive the mitzvah of Techelet and the mitzvah of Tefillin. What's the connection? So he says like this. In an ordinary war, the victor has a legal right to the spoils. The reason for this is that the rules of engagement for war is that both sides put everything on the line, including their own lives. It's literally a winner take all situation. However, in this war, Avram never really risked his life. Hashem miraculously allowed him to win without a scratch. That is what Avram meant when he said, I didn't even risk losing anything. So therefore, I'm not deserving of any reward that you want to give me because it wasn't really a fair fight, if we want to be honest. Okay, so beautiful, beautiful. Again, I don't think it's pshat, but I think it's beautiful. The Meshach Chachma. Um, okay, so the Meshach Chachma says that Avraham might very much ran the risk of what every soldier runs the risk of, every victorious soldier, to think that it's your own strength and your own might and your own cunningness that leads to victory. And so Abraham might have thought, right? The rabbis always state in terms of kochi v'otzim yadi asali et hachayil hazeh, that it's my own strength that brought about this victory or this success. Um, so Avram needed to do something dramatic to ensure that he would not fall into this trap. The Meshech Chachma interprets the trust of Avram's statement, I think that should be the thrust of Avram's statement, to mean, it is not my booty because it is not my war and it is not my victory. God won the war, so it is he who should get the spoils. Okay, and then finally, Hasidic take on it. Right, Avraham, it says Harimoti Adi, I raise my hand. So that's generally read as a sign of an oath. The Beis Yisrael, the Gera Rebbe, says that Harimoti Adi is that Avraham da, 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 lifted his fingers up and speaking to his own hands, he said, "You will not say I made Avram rich." Right? Avram has to remind himself the same message as the Meshech Chachma, but he's lifting up his hands to say, "These hands that just fought the battle really didn't do anything." Okay, so there's a lot, there's a lot to say about it, and then there's We could find tons of rabbis over the ages who spoke about the significance of the tefillin and the tzitzis, and it's beautiful. It's all very nice. But I wanted to share a different way of looking at it, beginning with okay, so beginning with the Chizkuni. So the first sort of thrust that we'll see is trying to make more sense of these connections of this chut v'atzrok na'al within context. So the Chizkuni says chut refers to tachshit shel rosh, some sort of hairband or a thread that you would put in your hair, whether it's to hold the hair back or if it was something that women would wear as more of a jewelry type of thing, but it's something that's worn on the head. And he quotes some sources that refer to such things. And stroch na'al is tachshit shel regel. It's not just a shoe strap, but again, it's some sort of decorative thing that people would wear on their feet. So if that's the case, then the Chizkuni is saying that Avraham is saying, I take nothing from head to toe. Right? So that makes more sense linguistically as far as if you're going to say, I don't want anything, that should be a sensible figure of speech. So from the very top to the very bottom, from head to toe. Yosef, the Bechor Shor, says that both of these refer to battle gear. That the chut hu ezor hacherev. It's a belt that you would put your sword in, right? A sheath that you would put your sword in, and the chut regel is the tzroch na'al is again some sort of battle boot, something specific for battle. So again, it puts it on a pshat level in a more sensible way, or more clear articulation, perhaps. But the really, actually, before, we'll stay basically in order. The real interesting thing comes when we get to the Ibn Ezra. And this is the secondary, right? The Ibn Ezra published a few different commentaries. So this is Perush Hasheni, or Perush Bet, the secondary commentary of the Ibn Ezra, right? If you have the Torah Chaim Mikra Gedolot, it has Ibn Ezra Ha'aruch and Ibn Ezra Katzar. Or I think it's like Charles Dickens, like maybe he got paid by the word or by the letter. So but he has several commentaries. So in this commentary, he writes, Ta'am v'im ekach, right? So Avram says, v'im ekach, if I will take from a thread to a shoelace, zot havav le'avar. Says that this actually is referring to the past tense. So it's not Avram saying, I will not take anything from you, but Avram is saying, I did not take in the past. Ki hatam imichut v'atzroch na'al lakachti. Right? Avram saying, I did not take even thread or a shoe strap. V'ha'ech amar biladai rak asher achlu hane'arim. Right? And we know, right, because he further on in his oath or swear to Melech Sdom, he says, only that which the other soldiers took in the past tense. So why is Avram saying in the past tense, I swear to you, I did not take? It seems to contradict what the Torah tells us, right? The Torah tells us that Abraham rescued Lot and the Rechush and the property. So what's the what do you think the significance of Ibn Ezra emphasizing that this is a past tense statement?
Is this the reference to Mitzrayim?
To Mitzrayim?
Well, no, that would also be a contradiction.
Yeah, that would be a contradiction, right? That's part of our question.
I guess, like, if it's in past tense, it sort of implies that he was part of the original alliance. He's also a mercenary who's being paid to go to war.
I think it's shifting the focus to the soldiers, to the people, to the one who's rescued. Avram is saying, I didn't just happen to take this batch of possessions just because I saw them laying there, like you're implying there, I mean, with the mercenary kind of idea. It's not that at all. It's the people. And the relationships with them and with Hashem that he's moving to the center by perhaps.
Okay.
He had the opportunity to do it, but that was not his motivation in
Right.
making it. And the one comment that I found from the Rebbe on this is that the dividing up that happens, or that he suggests should happen, was put into law itself by David HaMelech, and it has remained so since then. So if there are possessions that are there in the war that are taken, they are to be split equally among the members of society, both those who have had to stay home in order to take care of the crops or the animals or the children, whatever, is to be divided between them and the soldiers, and to be done equally. So that I thought was really interesting.
Okay,
it shed some light on that, and it just seems to fit with this idea here.
Interesting. So the explanation that I heard, which I thought was really fascinating, is I think continuing along the train of thought that's just been shared, is Avraham. Why does Avraham get involved in this battle? Right, what's his motivation, Anne, or anyone else?
Lot.
To save Lot,
God,
right? So Avraham is saying, I went into battle to save Lot. I had a clear mission and a clear purpose. My mission and purpose wasn't to get rich, wasn't to benefit in any personal way from this encounter. And so he's saying, right, because I went in with that purpose, I didn't take anything. I remained true to my mission. Right? We talk about, and this is something that we've been talking about ad nauseum this past year, about the IDF, the Tsahal's Toar HaNeshek, purity of arms statement and ethos and values, right? So Avram is saying, I waged a just war. I went into battle and I only did what my intended mission was. I didn't go beyond that. So I didn't take anything. I don't have any spoils of war to give back to you. Right? Maybe there was the rechush. Maybe there was the original possessions that were stolen that he wants to give back to the original owners. But again, that would be part of his just battle. He just wants to give back to Lot what was already Lot's. He wants to give back to the other residents of Stone what was already theirs. So he didn't take any extra riches, which he would then be able to keep. So that's what he's saying to Melech Stone. He's saying, you think the only reason people go to fight is because they want to benefit. They want to gain personal benefit from it, right? And so it's actually, right, it's even stronger, because what was the original proposition was I can't find the Hebrew right now, but
for the nefesh.
Yeah, you give me back the nefesh and you keep the rechush.
Right.
Verse 21. Vayomer Melech Sodom el Avram, ten li hanefesh v'rechush kach lach. Right. So Avram's saying, no, all I care about is the nefesh, right? Okay, so we have to explain why Lot still remains living in Stone and doesn't go back with Avram now. That's a different question. But that Avraham is saying, I went in with a clear purpose and directive, and that's all that I did. I fought a just, pure war, and therefore I don't have anything to give you.
I think another implication of this is that he's saying, I don't want a relationship with you, King of Sodom. You're not putting me under any obligations, and I'm not putting you under any obligations.
Okay, so not necessarily about the wealth, but just about, I don't want you to be able to hold anything over me.
That's right.
And I don't want to owe you anything.
That fits with the Nachum Sarna entry, if you want to go to that and when you want to go there. But I can give you an example from 2nd century of the Common Era. There are documents that are earlier than that were found in the area of the Dead Sea in the Wadi Murabat. But these were places also where Bar Kokhba went back in. And there is a mention of a woman who had a great deal of wealth. She was a traded business person who did a lot of trading and so on. And when they were trying to figure out who she was and what she was doing and what her legal status was and all of that, as I recall, I have the book in the living room. I'm sorry, I didn't think of it until just now, but to show you. But one of the points was that the pieces of writing that they have, most of them are on clay, but these were actually documents. And because the document was tied, it made a difference. It made it into a based-in or some group of people who recognized a legitimate claim that she had brought against someone for something, and the document was tied. So, and he says here that this is used in treaty contexts. He doesn't say exactly what they are. There are many Akkadian treaties. I've studied a couple of them. It could come into the curses or blessings section, but I was thinking maybe it also has something to do with whether the documents are tied or not, and their legal status as a result of it. So I'm sorry, I can't prove the point, but it just seemed to me that it's so difficult. I think we have to admit it's difficult for us to understand these times if we don't really know what these are allusions to.
Yeah,
I mean, that's your point.
We'll come back to that in a second, but let's just go ahead. Robert Alter says, I think along these lines.
Yes, I know Robert Alter.
So he says it's a little surprising that Avram should figure as a military hero. In some scholars, most forcefully Yochanan Mufs, I've never heard of Yochanan Mufs, have seen this story as an Israelite adaptation of an old Akkadian literary form, the Naru, a historical romance meant to glorify kings. One should note, however, that the military exploits, apparently a surprise attack by night, is dispatched very quickly, while the main emphasis is placed on the victorious Avram's magnanimity and disinterestedness. Thus, the idea of the patriarchs maintaining fair and proper relations with the peoples of the land, already intimated in his dealings with Lot in the previous chapter, comes to displace the image of mere martial prowess. Okay, so again, right, emphasizing that Abraham is fighting on principle, that he's fighting with real values and ethics, and that he's creating a new paradigm and a new way of interacting with the world in which he finds himself. Back to Nachum Sarna. So he, again, what Anne just shared is really interesting, and there's, I'm sure, a very rich academic, research in the academic world on this. But he just sort of points us to it, a thread or a sandal strap that is thick, a thick or cord.
Should be thin or thick.
Yeah, thin or thick, right? So again, right, that would be like the two extremes, right? Thin or thick. The figure is a merism using contrasting items to express the totality. This particular phrase occurs nowhere else, but analogous expressions are Akkadian hamu la husabu, be it a stalk of straw or a twig. In Aramaic, mean ham ad hut, straw or string. Both are used in treaty contexts. So he places it sort of this seemingly odd phrase actually is a common phrase of treaties in the ancient world, and it may also indicate the two extremes that we would have expected in a more conventional oath against wanting to take anything. So I think that's what I got for tonight. Are there any final questions or thoughts?
Well, I have one because it's very interesting that you're bringing this up right now because on Sunday, the law came, a draft of a law came up before the Knesset that says that those Jewish men who do not fight in the IDF cannot have, excuse me, I should go back a step. The High Court had ruled that if a Jewish man does not participate in the battle, then his children cannot receive daycare subsidies.
Right.
So the bill was brought up on possibly on Sunday, but Netanyahu eventually got it withdrawn so that it is not going to be pushed forward right now because he didn't have the majority to defeat the other the court statement. So right now, if a person who is been drafted and does not serve, his children do not share, so to speak, in the wealth of the society.
Right.
So it's
so
it's not as if, and that's this week. And you brought this up this week. I think that's a
right.
very
I mean,
interesting
yeah. So it's
coincidence.
coming at it from the different angle, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just a clarification, the proposed law was withdrawn by the Prime Minister of Israel because a third of the members of his own party made a direct statement that they will not vote for giving benefits that are supposed to be for people who are unable to work on their own because they're serving in the defense of the country. They will not give those benefits to people who refuse to fulfill that civic, sacred responsibility, as some people interpret it. And that's a money issue. That guarantee of the funding of the education of children, so that someone who's not theoretically not actively employed and provide daycare for kids whose mothers are working because the husband is busy learning, maybe. There's a question of the budget of Israel right now is being cut. The budget of Israel right now is in deficit. The budget of Israel needs more revenue and less spending for certain things and more for other stuff. It's a serious matter. And that people are fighting now over the issue of who's responsible. That's a question of, it's a live issue.
Yeah, it's a very live issue. I mean, right, so that's there's a connection, but it's a little bit far of, it's casting a very wide net on what we're discussing. But yeah. Yeah.
It is a wide net, and it has been in Israel from the time of the establishment of the state, that people live off the welfare and do absolutely nothing except sit in yeshivot and remain there forever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say so, but
Yeah, it's definitely a very live, contentious issue, and yeah, it's not a new issue, and it's not an issue that's unique to Israel, although it certainly has unique ways of playing it itself out there in Israel, and I'm sure all of us who closely follow the news in Israel will continue to hear about this, I think, for many years to come. But yeah, so back to what we discussed tonight. So we started off by just highlighting some of the textual difficulties in this passage. Probably one of the more overlooked passages in the stories of Abraham. We saw how Chazal dealt with it, and very beautiful interpretations of very perhaps far removed or difficult to connect to a pshat reading of the Torah, but we went to some of the more classical commentaries that try to show a more within the context understanding, and then this radical new read from the Ibn Ezra, which then some of the more academic approaches. So we covered a lot of ground in this short passage, and
was there an estimate of how much money was involved?
we have no idea.
Involved?
No, we have
Because
no idea.
I look at it, it's more just as a punishment.
Uh-huh.
That what? Sorry, you looked at what is a punishment?
The law about restricting or disallowing for the support of the children as a punishment, depending on what it really costs financially.
Right.
Oh, I don't know what I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, just want to like to go back to the original midrashim that you brought up in terms of like, why are they talking about mitzvot? I wonder if the midrashim are in the context of, because we had that one like Avram's talking to his hand,
Right.
but the fact that it's the Kohen Elyon, right? Which
So the talking to the hand was the
that was at the end, right?
the Beis Yisrael, right? That was the Hasidic Rebbe at the
Rabbi
end.
Leib, Yeshua Leib, was that Yeshua Leib or the
No,
Diskin
that's
the Ger?
the Gera Rebbe, the Beis Yisrael.
Yeah. But is there, I mean, in the context as well, it could be said that Avram is not so much responding to the people as to the God that the Kohen is representing, right? It's coming out with bread and wine and saying, there's like this feast going on, and then you take the money and give us the people, and then Avram says, I'm not going to take anything. And so the Midrash jumps on that and says, oh, and that's why Jews have these weird things like chelet and tefillin, which distinguish, right? So that was just a way for.
Right. I mean, generally, most read it Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem as being a very positive figure. That
right, yeah.
But but to distinguish between other religions and what Avram is doing, that's interesting. That could very well be.
Yeah.
That it's, and I mean, in general, there's this whole thrust to try to prove or demonstrate that Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov kept the Torah and kept mitzvot and had it. So it all ties in, but yeah, that could be that because it's specifically right after he's introduced to this other religious figure that they want to really emphasize the Jewish aspect of it.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Yasher Koach.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We can now get to
Curiosity, is Robert Alter related to the Ger Rebbe?
Oh, we have two altars? I have no idea.
Oh, that's cute.
Because it's not all that common a name.
The family name of the Ger Rebbeim was Alter.
Alter.
Right. So was Robert Alter related? I have no idea.
I'm Wikipedia.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Avi will tell us in a second.
No, it doesn't show anything here.
Okay.
Where I grew up, Alter is not such a rare name. Like in Canada, where it's like mostly post Shoah community, so there were a lot of altars.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Rosen, Mr. Josh Rosen, I just wanted to introduce you, at least digitally, to Lou. Lou, is Gwen with you tonight?
Yes.
Lou and Gwen, also Rosens, also from South Africa. So
yeah, we'd be we're looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
It was very enlightening for me.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
We'd love to see you back here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Have a good night. You could go watch the election parties now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi,
Bye.
Judy.